So on this one, man, we're gonna get into somebody near and dear to me, an old school veteran pimp by the name of T-Mack. You dig? So we're gonna talk about it. But first, wipe your feet off at the door when you step into a pimp's domain. Let's go.
Bitch, you want all this pimping you can't afford. Perform like a punk, but wanna win his reward. Some suckers give you points, but bitch, you never scored. If you ain't paying pimping, then bitch, you getting ignored.
Okay.
I'm so sick of these.
Good old T-Mack. Pretty sure a lot of y'all remember Sinful to P speaking quite often about T-Mack. And you know, to Sinful and myself, T-Mack was like the uncle that we never had. The pimping ass uncle that neither one of us ever had, right? He was what we considered our uncle in the game. And so to give you a little backstory on T-Mack, as much as I know, T-Mack was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, sometime in the early 1950s. I want to say 1951 if I'm not mistaken. And you know, T-Mack jumped off the porch, I want to say in the late 60s, like maybe 1968, 1969, right? That's when he jumped off into the porch into this game. Now, for those of y'all unfamiliar, man, you know, Milwaukee is a city in the Midwest that has produced a lot of pimping. A lot of legendary pimps come out of that Milwaukee, man. And T-Mack was one of them, you know, from way back in the days, coming up out that Milwaukee, man. Now, as he explained it to me, initially when he got into the game, he was just known as T. Then when he made his way to the West Coast, to that San Francisco, man, in the early 1970s, you know, them cats around that Frisco put the Mac on it, right? So in the early 1970s in San Francisco, that's when he became T-Mack, right? So, you know, during them days, man, you know, people was coming from all over the country to that West Coast, man, to that Bay Area, and then ultimately to that Hollywood, right? So naturally, eventually, T-Mack lands in that Hollywood, doing his thing around there. You know, definitely made his mark around that Hollywood on that Sunset in them 70s, man. You know, rubbing elbows with, you know, the likes of Joe Cato and Hollywood D and, you know, Mac Man and a whole bunch of other cats that, you know, I can't even list because, you know, it's too many of them, man. Whole lot of legendary cats out there though in that Hollywood back in them days, man. And T-Mack was holding his own amongst all those gentlemen, doing his thing in the 70s, right? So fast forward to the early days of Freeze and Sinful to P. You know, we young, fresh in the game, man. And we meet T-Mack, man. And T-Mack was like the coolest person on planet Earth, man. If you want to just talk about just pure coolness, man, T-Mack was the coolest dude on Earth. And when we met him, man, he just had this walk that was like a glide. It's like his feet wasn't even touching the ground. He would just, you know, he would just glide down, you know, the street or the walkway or wherever he was walking, man. He just would glide, man. He had this glide and he had rings on all his fingers, man. Just picture an old school cat with rings on every finger, man, just gliding down the street. You dig? That was T-Mack, man. You know, we came together in that Las Vegas, Nevada, and, you know, he naturally embraced Sinful and myself, took a liking to us. You know, and again, like I said, he was like that uncle that we had in the game, man. And, you know, T-Mack, he lived not too far from the Las Vegas Strip. You know, he was older by this time and kind of, you know, slowed down. You know, definitely not in his heyday like he was in his younger days. But nonetheless, still getting action from chicks in their 20s and their 30s. And by this time, T-Mack had to be like in his mid 50s, right? Still getting action from them young chicks, you know, still getting break-ins on them young chicks around that Las Vegas, man. You know, definitely had no shortage of action. And so when Sinful and myself met T-Mack, T-Mack's crib just became like the spot. Sinful and myself would always go to T-Mack's crib because it was always something going on over there. T-Mack, like I said, he always had action at young chicks. So, whenever we go to T-Mack's, it'd be some young 304s over there, or, a young square thinking about getting into the game because he stayed in these apartments where, young chicks would frequent. So, and T-Mack was he was a charismatic dude, man, and, didn't mind opening his mouth and talking to people. So, everybody knew T-Mack, and a lot of the young ladies liked T-Mack. So, T-Mack was his house was like the spot. And then on top of that, T-Mack liked to cook. He'll get in that kitchen and whip something up in a heartbeat. And that's another reason why Sinful and myself, always went over to T-Mack's crib, because, T-Mack always was cooking, you know what I mean? So we'll bring groceries over there to T-Mack, and, he'll do his thing, man. And, we definitely learned a lot from T-Mack, man, as I'm sure a lot of y'all remember Sinful telling the story of him always getting chicks out of pocket, but not breaking them. You know what I mean? And I'll never forget, man, we all riding with T-Mack, man, and he had this Cadillac that still to this day, I never seen another Cadillac like the one that he had. His was a one of one as far as I know. He had, I believe it was a 1999 Cadillac STS, but the chrome trim that he had on that thing, I never seen another one like it. It had the chrome vents on the side, on the fender, that a lot of those Cadillacs back then didn't even have. So he's kind of like ahead of his time, man. I don't know if he had it custom made like that or whatever, but, so we all ride in the Cadillac, man. And T-Mack was asking Sinful about this young chick that he had action at. And, T-Mack was like, baby, did you break on her? And Sinful like, nah, T-Mack, he just went off, he like, man, you gotta break a bitch. You know what I mean? you get them chicks out of pocket, man, you gotta break on their ass. So, that lit a fire up under Sinful's ass, man. And rightfully so, because from that moment on, I'm talking about whenever Sinful got somebody out of pocket, he's going for the breaking, but T-Mack lit that fire up under his ass, to make him start going and getting his break on whenever he'll get somebody out of pocket, you dig? And yeah, man, T-Mack, man, he was charismatic, he was funny, he was an elder to us, I wouldn't say a mentor, because like Sinful let you know, he and myself, we really didn't have like mentors in the game, but T-Mack was just that elder that was there for us in whatever way we needed him to be there for us. And we was there for him as well, looking out for him whenever we had the opportunity to. And it's a lot of value in being around the elders in the game. I know a lot of young cats, man, kind of like, you might see an elder pimp that might not be all the way on his feet. He might be leaking, and he might not be in the best situation financially. And you look at him like, there's no value to him. But you don't understand, that this cat, he done been through all kind of ups, downs, and turnarounds in the name of the game, in the name of pimping, right? So, there's definitely a lot of value that guys like that can impart to a young pimp, and this is why myself and Sinful, we always had good relationships with elder P's in the game, man. And a lot of times, we'll be the only young pimps in the mix with all these elder P's, man. I remember when Sinful and I went to Crooked Mouth's funeral in Oakland, and Sinful and myself, we was like the only young P's there. Everybody else was like 50 and above. You did? So naturally with us having that kind of like, vibe and connection with the elder P's, with T-Mack, it wasn't no different, man. And yeah, man, T-Mack, he was just smooth and cool. And T-Mack had a way of, like how he lit that fire up under Sinful's ass. He had a way of doing that. You know, he'll take a shot at your pimping in such a smooth type of way that'll make you feel some type of way and make you really go get pimping, man. You know, like T-Mack was just, you know, he had like a smoothness about himself, but you know, he knew how to cut when it was necessary to cut. And you know, I appreciate those cuttings and those choppings as a young pimp, because you know, there's game in it, it's value in it, right? And it's really and truly a privilege to have an elder P chop you up, you know, because really and truly a pimp is only gonna chop a pimp up if it's a square acting like some pimping in the game and all that type of stuff, man. Pimping, you know, gonna give them the cold shoulder, right? So if you are a young pimp and you've ever been chopped up by an elder pimp, you know what I'm talking about, man. It's game in that, it's value in that, because on those occasions where T-Mack would bite a pimp up and chop at a pimp, it wasn't to tear a youngster down. It was to build him up. It was to, you know, enlighten him, open his eyes to something that he might not be privy to when it comes to this game. You dig? So T-Mack definitely didn't spare the sword, man. And you know, I learned a lot from T-Mack, man. I had a lot of fun with T-Mack. You know, we done been in several different cities and states together. T-Mack was so pimpish, man. I remember one time we was in Hollywood, right? And I had this Cadillac with Vogues on it. And anybody who knew me knew that, you know, I've had several Cadillacs with Vogues on them, right? And anybody who knew me knew that when I had a Cadillac with Vogues on it, man, I was known for just being on the blade. I might be suited and booted like this, but I had my little kit in the trunk and I would always keep my Vogues clean, right? So I remember one time me and T-Mack was in Hollywood, man. And we was, you know, congregating with, you know, several P's. And I was cleaning my Vogues, right? And T-Mack was like trying to tell me, you know, how to clean them better than what I was doing, right? He like, yeah, baby, you know, you need to do this and do that. Woo, woo, woo. And it was so funny because he was like, you know, I would show you how to do it, man, but you know, I'm a pimp, man. So, you know, I can't get down there on my knees or nothing like that, man, and clean no damn tires, man, especially we on the blade and I'm clean as hell, man. You know, I'm a pimp, man. So, you know, I can't show it. I could tell you how to do it. I would show you how to do it, but you know, since I'm such a pimp, man, you know, I can't show you right now, man. You know, sometimes T-Mack was too pimpish for his own good, man. You know, but yeah, very, very smooth individual, man. Like I said, we done been in several different cities and states together, had a lot of fun with him, you know what I mean? And T-Mack, you know, he wasn't one of those like jug masters. You know what I mean? You got certain older cats in the game that are jug masters that'll try to jug a young pimp to death. You dig? And for those of y'all who don't know what I mean in the pimp sense of a jug, because I know there's different definitions of what a jug is, but when I say jug, I'm talking about like a funding. You know, like you might give a pimp, you know, some financial assistance to keep him on his feet, keep his campaign going, keep the cheat up off of him. You dig? And yeah, you know, T-Mack would accept a jug and he would ask for a jug if he needed one, but he wasn't one of them type of cats that was trying to live off the jug. Like you got a lot of older cats that will do. You dig? T-Mack, and then not just that, but you got some cats that'll try to live off the jug, and when they get on their feet, they'll forget about you. T-Mack wasn't like that, you know what I mean? He was a generous, you know, gentleman when it came to the pimping. If he had anything that he could extend to the pimping that would help the pimping, he did that with no hesitation. You dig? It done been plenty of times where I'd have had to sleep and shower and eat and everything at T-Mack's house, you know, when I was a young pimp on the come up, man. And you know, he always extended that to myself and Sinful with no problem. And It just reminded me of the story that a lot of y'all done heard me tell before, and you done heard Sinful tell the story before itself, right? But we was all at T-Mack's crib, man. You know, Sinful, he like 5'6" deep at this time, man. He got 304s galore, man. And we pulled up to T-Mack house with a bunch of groceries. You know, Sinful had bought a bunch of groceries for T-Mack's crib. And we pull up to the house in T-Mack's Cadillac. And Sinful tell me and T-Mack, he like, y'all, he like, yeah, man, you know, could y'all help me with these groceries? And I flashed on Sinful, you know what I mean? But you know, it was part of that fire that T-Mack and other elder pimps that we had been cool with had lit up under us. You know, so now we kind of getting kind of sharp in the game. So Sinful asked me and T-Mack to help with the groceries, and I was like, man, you got all them 304s up there in the house, man. If you don't call them 304s down here to get these groceries, man, trying to put this pimping to work, man. What's wrong with you? Oh, man. Yeah, man, you know, but a lot of fond memories with T-Mack, man. And at this moment, I don't know where T-Mack is. You know, I had heard some rumors about T-Mack that, you know, he was up out of here. But then recently I found some things that let me know that T-Mack did not get up out of here. And T-Mack, if I'm not mistaken, is alive and well somewhere, more than likely somewhere in Los Angeles, somewhere in California, man. You know, so, man, it'll be a beautiful thing, man, if I could reconnect with T-Mack, man. You know, I got a lot of love for that man. I ain't seen T-Mack in over a decade. Ain't talked to him or heard from him or know of anybody else that's heard from him in over a decade. But like I said, I recently saw some things that let me know that he's alive somewhere. And, you know, T-Mack would be in his early to mid 70s right now. And I know he's somewhere around that Los Angeles, man. So, you know, and I know T-Mack is a common name, you know, and I've had people try to line me up with, oh yeah, man, I got T-Mack on the phone. They put me on the phone. It's the wrong T-Mack, you dig? So, if anybody sees this and knows the T-Mack that I'm talking about, Thurman Butler from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, you know, that will be in his mid 70s right now. That's the T-Mack that I'm talking about. You dig? You know, Sinful used to make fun of T-Mack because he was like, yeah, man, you know, T-Mack got that back, that one back that's bigger than the other back. Because, you know, when T-Mack walked, you know what I mean, he got like a lean. He kind of leaned to the side a little bit when he walked. When he walked like that, you know, when you see him from the back, it looked like one side of his back is bigger than the other side of his back. So Sinful used to make fun of him. He's like, yeah, man, T-Mack got that one back that's bigger than the other back. So that's the T-Mack that I'm talking about, man. So again, like I said, it'd be a beautiful thing to reconnect with T-Mack, man. That would be a treat, especially at this time in life, man, because a lot of my loved ones unfortunately are no longer here, man. So it would definitely be a treat to run into T-Mack. But wherever T-Mack is, man, I got much love for him. I hope he's doing well, and I hope he you know, is taking care of himself, you dig? But that's some stories about T-Mack. I probably will get into some more stories about T-Mack in the near future. But for now, let that marinate on your mind one time. Freezes it. Go ahead, put some of this good old love in your body like so. And of course, as always, long live the incomparable Sinful to P. We out. Dig this.
Yeah.
I been stroking relentless to get waves like this. I spoke into existence for her to pay like this. In the trenches on a day like this, traffic consistent, and so I have to insist that she relay my chips. It's a trap with her name on it and my game on it. Any forces coming against this game, shame on it. Standing on my pimping from day one and remain on it. It carried me through every terrain and I gained on it. Experience joy and pain on it, sustained on it.
But getting back to this game that I never left.
Baby, yeah, where you been?